In this video, I'd like to go over what is expected from the Philosophy of Instructional Design paper. Now, this is a new assignment for this particular course, so unfortunately, there are no samples that I can provide you with. So let me just go over what I expect from you in this paper. For an overview of the paper, now in this assignment, you're expected to reflect on your personal instructional design philosophy. Now, we've read through various learning theories, motivational issues, design models. Having read through all that, where do you stand now? Now, which of these theories and models have made an impact on you, and why have they affected you in such a way? And how is this going to influence your practice in future? Now, why do I want you to write this paper? When you propose a new training program or you implement a new strategy, you need to have a solid reason for it. If you go for a job interview, they invariably nowadays ask you about your philosophy of teaching, of instructional design, and you need to be able to state it concisely and with a theoretical basis to it. Now, I agree that philosophy changes over time, but I want this paper to be a snapshot of where you stand currently. So, this paper is also a way for you to synthesize your learning, kind of put it all together and make it meaningful for yourself. What have you learned in this module? How is it going to influence you? How is it molding you? So, these are the basic ideas that I want you to explore in this paper. The paper itself is worth 15% of your total grade, and it's due in D2L Dropbox by 11:59 p.m. on October 1st, 2016. Okay, so a little bit more about what's in this paper. Okay, so you're going to be considering theories and models. We looked at the eclectic approach, we looked at the ADDIE, we looked at rapid instructional design. Those were just the models. Now, what about theories? You had adult learning theories, you had constructivism, behaviorism, you had bits of andragogy thrown in. So, which of these theories influenced you? Which one are you drawn to? Which one do you dislike completely and you think is completely irrelevant? That's what you're going to be bringing into this paper. Okay, now what is the learner? Who is the learner that you see in front of you? How do you envision your learner? Then, what is your role as instructional designer? Where do you see yourself as an instructional designer? Based on these, you're then going to be looking at what strategies you are creating for your students, for your learners. The learning environment becomes very important, especially in the context of adults. Now, we looked at motivation for adults. There's also the whole biological aspect of adults. With age comes different biological limitations. So, what kind of an environment do you want to create for your learners? These things are molded by your life experiences, your beliefs and assumptions. I come from an Asian background. I was taught in a highly behavioristic model of learning, and it was all rote learning. So, my life experience is that. And so, there's always a part of me that still recognizes and respects aspects of behaviorism. So, I will not completely rule out behavioristic strategies in my instructional design philosophy because I think there is value to it at different parts of a learning process. Now, this also comes to my beliefs and assumptions. So, my assumption is that my learner is going to be motivated. My assumption is that my learner is going to be investing of themselves as much as I invest in it. Those are my assumptions. What is my belief of learning? My belief of learning is that it's going to serve you well and very practically. My belief is that it has to have something tangible at the end of it. My belief is that there has to be a return on investment for the designer, for the learner, for everyone involved. So those are my beliefs. What is yours? And those beliefs and assumptions are going to frame all these other things that we just talked about. So when you write your paper, then make sure you touch on all these questions. What theories and models seem relevant or appropriate to you? Why? How do you define a learner? And what is the learner's role in your learning environment? What is your role as designer, as instructor? And what practices and strategies would you incorporate into your learning programs? Why were you drawn to these practices and strategies? And how are your viewpoints shaped by your life experiences? And at the end of it, I'd like you to end your statement of philosophy with three words that best describe you as an instructional designer. Okay, so while all these aspects need to be covered in your paper, remember it is a philosophy paper. It's not a question and answer paper. So I don't want you giving me answers to questions. What I want is for you to tell me your story. Where were you? What has changed you? How have you come to this point in your life and your thought process behind it? That's what I want to know. Remember, you're telling a story. You're telling a story of who you are as an instructional designer and how you plan to move forward with that. And a good story will need cohesion. So you cannot be presenting answers to questions. Develop a cohesive paper. Now, some of these might be like, how do I bring this into that and how do I transition between them? Subheadings are an excellent way to transition between ideas. Use subheadings, that's fine. But remember, it has to have a logical flow. How are you going to write out this paper? And this is just the technical formatting of it. Remember, we are using APA publication format. Okay, so you want to make sure that your paper is double spaced. It has to have 1 inch margins all around. Use headings and subheadings, and there are formatting styles for that. Your paper should be 5 to 7 pages long, doesn't need to be more than that, and the page length does not include your title and your references. And remember to cite your references using APA. And all the claims you make, all the theories you present, all the models you talk about need to be based in the readings we have done. You can pick up external peer reviewed sources as well, that's fine, but it has to have a basis in literature. And finally, how will I grade this paper? So I'm going to be looking at content. Have you covered all those questions? Have you addressed them at some point in your paper? That's going to carry the major points here. So that's going to be 8 points. And then are you critically analyzing it? Are you giving me a justification for it? And does it make sense to me when I'm reading it as an, okay, this kind of a philosophy makes sense? And APA documentation, are you following APA style correctly? In the layout, in the header, in your citations, in text, your references, everything, be careful about it. And how are you writing basically? What is your grammar, spelling, syntax, and does your paper flow logically? You need to have good writing skills. So please pay attention to this. Remember, the UWM has a free writing center that you can all make schedule appointments with. They also do online sessions, so you don't even have to come to campus for it. So it's available to you. Use it, capitalize on it, and come up with a great